So Sam, on the analysis news the other day, I saw this. It was a great video with a documentarian, Reed Lindsay, and it was about Cuba. So really the main points that he made and he was talking about was that, well, A, we all know that Trump really reversed all of Obama's progress. And it seems like, Cuba was one area that you can give Obama some credit that, he did some things to bring the countries a bit together, their relations, and more importantly, of course, remove sanctions and all these things that don't allow Cuba to operate properly in the international community. And he was saying that Biden has pretty much done nothing so far to reverse them, and that the policies that Trump, the Cuba policies of Trump, didn't even like only reinstate everything that Obama had removed, but it made it even worse. And he was saying that the situation in Cuba, the economy is not that good right now, or it's at worse than it usually is. A lot to do because of the new sanctions and because of COVID, of course. But so yeah, it was just very interesting. You don't usually hear about Cuba in news. So if you want to go check that out, it's very interesting. And of course, makes a bunch of other points that I didn't summarize here. And it just made me think of this kind of ridiculous comparison that you hear all the time, Sam. So I was telling you, I feel like you always hear this comparison where they want to point out why Cuba or why communism, more importantly, is not good. They kind of compare it to the US. You were saying you haven't heard that much, maybe all the time, being compared to the US explicitly, but to, other big developed countries. And I've been just thinking, I've had this idea a lot of time. I was like, it's really a bad comparison. Why don't you take Cuba and compare it to Haiti or, even some Eastern European country or other South American countries, of course, African countries, and it will look much different, right? It is kind of unfair to compare it to the US, of course, the world's biggest and richest country, but also to other countries. I've never heard someone say like, wow, I mean, comparing to Haiti, Cuba is this, or, pick another country. What do you make of that comparison usually, or yeah?
Sure, I think it's idiot. I think, to be honest, it's not done by, very people who are very like it's done by, people who are not well read or well educated on these things because it's ridiculous. It's like comparing, even let's say comparing Russia with USA. It's not, it's not a
Yeah.
fair comparison. I think each country should be judged based on its own potential, based on its own history, based on its own sort of resources, all of that. But yeah, to compare a island nation with let's say history of colonialization or exploitation to a nation far bigger, far richer, you know, it's idiotic. It's but it happens all the time. But it's idiotic. I don't think it's like sometimes I think the left goes too far. Like they, for example, China and Iran, in my view, when they compare them to the West, I think China and Iran have a lot more to answer for, you know. Uh, but Cuba, I think a country that was pretty much under siege, and even Iran now, like after 20 years of hard sanctions, maybe it's a different case. But obviously, I think yeah, that's a really idiotic comparison, as
Yeah,
you put
no.
it far shorter than I did. Yeah.
No, but it's funny that you say this. Yeah, that it's like a lot of the time people who aren't maybe super into politics, you always kind of hear them say that, or like, they compare to like, oh, you go to Cuba and you can't buy this or that. I'm like, have you been to like, another non-communist, developing or underdeveloped country? Tell me what the situation is like there. Don't compare it to the US or whatever. But yeah, that was just like a small little comment that I had that I wanted to add. But yeah, a really must watch video. And another one that I really